All right.
Today, we are going to talk a little bit about the problem. If you can't frame a problem, how do you find a solution? My name is Amanda Beard, and my role here is as a member of Resilient Health Communities. I currently serve as its president. We are a very grassroots organization, literally persons in the community who are in several states and other countries who saw a problem that we needed to address in our personal lives. And we got together to not just share resources with each other, but resources with anyone who's interested. So this is a very special welcome to today's session. Do you know that there is one disease that has sometimes been found to make people more afraid than cancer? You know what that is just because of the forum that you're in. We're here to talk about cognitive decline. And so that some surveys have found that people fear cognitive decline, Alzheimer's specifically, more than cancer. But before we get into some facts so that we understand the disease, let's take a look at our very ambitious agenda for today. We are going to, in 1 hour, we are going to talk about the statistics related to Alzheimer's. We're going to talk a little bit about Alzheimer's and mild cognitive impairment because they are so very related. And I'll share a little bit more about what Resilient Health Communities is and what it hopes to achieve. And then Teresa Mandela, who you will hear from soon, is going to share a simple tool, exercises that will be so familiar because it's the way we all learned. She'll talk about the Stronger Memory Program and her employer, Goodwin Living. And then we'll have a testimonial video for Resilient Health Community. As I said, we began really grassroots. And one of the things we've done for the last year is share Stronger Memory in community, online and in person. So we'll have a testimonial from someone who's been in an in-person group. And I'm excited to say that they just started another 12-week session today. And then we'll take your questions. So we're going to ask you the whole questions until after that testimonial video. And then both Teresa and I will field questions. And my favorite part, I love the whole agenda, but then we will have a demonstration by two of the members of our community, Dr. Murray, who is our director of programs, and Dr. Wood, who is the chair of our board. Then we'll have final questions and an announcement of what's next for us. Sounds good? So, Resilient Health Communities combines two things that are social scourges in our society, not just in the US, but worldwide. We believe that we can combat both social isolation, that is an epidemic according to the US Surgeon General and World Health Organization, and combat cognitive decline in community. And we say in community because we've experienced that when we try to change habits at all ages, I won't say what mine is, but at all ages, it's harder for us to develop new habits. And so in community, over time, not only do we develop those new habits, but we find ourselves making more connections and frankly, being healthier in community. So what is Alzheimer's? I'm glad you asked. I want to make it really clear because this is something that we experience a lot. That for a lot of people, we have a misconception of Alzheimer's as a mental health disorder. And it's nothing could be further from the truth. Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. Dementia is really a group of symptoms that affect the brain cells. Alzheimer's is the most prevalent type of dementia. It accounts for over 70% of dementia cases. And what Alzheimer's does is neurological, but it's neurodegenerative because it is a disease that affects the structure and the function of the brain. So if you see someone experience Alzheimer's, you know it's progressive. It affects basic life activity. So the person is in an advanced stage, incapable of taking care of themselves. That's the reason why we're most interested, not only because we have loved ones experiencing it, but how do we impact our own cognition and strengthen our own brain so that we can delay the onset or better yet prevent it? What do we do? What can we do? Before we talk about that, I want to share a little bit more statistically to paint a clear picture, not because we're trying to scare anyone, but we believe there's power in that knowledge, in that awareness of what Alzheimer's really is, how cognitive impairment impacts our lives, and what the projections are for the disease. Currently, someone somewhere in the world develops dementia every 3.2 seconds. And yet the statistics and projections are that that rate will triple in the next 25 years. It costs the US economy alone over $1 trillion to deal with Alzheimer's patients. And in the next 5 years, that amount is expected to double. I'm a female. My risk, females are 2/3 of the cases. As a person with African ancestry, my rates and risk in the US is double that of someone who's Caucasian. If you are Hispanic, your rates are 50% higher than Caucasians. We know that education is protective, but yet I know, and I'm sure you do, you know, two persons who have advanced degrees who have suffered from this disease. Having children appears to be protective, and yet we know parents, lots of moms who have suffered from this. So the idea of understanding the disease, we could look at the statistics and the projections. What's most important to us here in resilient health communities instead is what can we do about a disease that appears to affect so many and that seems so little understood by us in community. It is true that the highest risk factor for developing Alzheimer's is age. After 65, all risk of developing Alzheimer's doubles every 5 years. But can I tell you something? During the break, I'm going to post a lot of statistics and information in the chat, so get ready for that. Because Blue Cross Blue Shield, a reputable insurance company here in the US, found a few years ago that the rates of Alzheimer's, early onset Alzheimer's among Gen X, that's me, I'm the first year of Generation X, we are 45 to 60, and millennials who are 29 to 44, almost quadrupled. And they don't believe it's simply a matter of better diagnostic tools. So we are seeing an increase in the prevalence of Alzheimer's, but we're also seeing earlier onset. There's one last fact I'll leave you with when it relates to age. Scientists are very concerned when they look at the even younger generation. They are seeing on images that there's a thinning of the prefrontal cortex, which is a working memory or executive function that is so critical to our ability to manage our daily lives, that they don't yet understand how that will play out in the next decade or two. So that's the problem. What are some of the solutions? I'm glad you asked.
Like year and a half. Yes, sir.
So we're not just here talking about problems. What are some of the simple things that we can do to combat Alzheimer's and then mild cognitive impairment, which is not necessarily a precondition for Alzheimer's, but the reality is every year 10 to 20% of persons with mild cognitive impairment develop Alzheimer's, so they're very related. Simple things we can do: reduce stress, improve sleep quality, prioritize physical activity, get some exercise, adopt a brain healthy diet, and the science is pretty consistent that a Mediterranean and DASH diet combination, and for some, a keto diet appears to be more favorable for persons who have cognitive impairment. Avoid alcohol and smoking. We have heard that repeatedly for lots of other conditions. Manage chronic health conditions. So if you have high blood pressure, if you have diabetes, managing them, taking medication that's prescribed can mitigate your increased risk. Maintaining strong social connections. I mentioned that before. Science is saying it's not just the number of social connections, but the quality of those connections that can help us live healthier longer. And the last two are highlighted because we're going to focus on that. Engage in lifelong learning and incorporate brain exercises into your routine activity. With that, we're going to share now stronger memory so you can better understand why in the community it's the tool that we choose to use to help us together develop healthier brain habits. Teresa?
Yep, I am setting it up right now. There we go. All righty. And sharing. All righty. There we go. Okay, can you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. All righty, so Rhonda set this up wonderfully because it is something that I think all of us worry about is, am I going to still be able to think well into my older age? And we found out that there is something you can do about it now to help that and ensure that you have a much healthier older adulthood, and it's called Stronger Memory. So Stronger Memory has an interesting story because it started with a nice mom and her very nice son who are pictured here many years ago at a baseball game. That lovely lady is named Wendy Liebrick. And in 2011, when Wendy was 68 years old, she started forgetting things that she never would have forgotten before, like grandbabies' birthdays. She started repeating herself. She had no idea she was doing it. Boy, her husband was getting a little frustrated because she kept saying things over and over and asking the same questions that he had answered. She started losing basic math skills. And when she went out with friends, she couldn't figure out what her part of the bill was or what the tip was. No matter how hard she tried, even if she went in the bathroom and started trying to figure it out on a paper towel with a pencil. And then it really ended up knowing the family figured something was serious. One day, Wendy called her husband from her cell phone and said, I've been trying to get home. I'm driving around and I can't seem to find our house. She was only 2 blocks away. This is the same house she lived in for 40 years with her husband at that point, but it's also the same neighborhood she grew up in. And that's when her entire family said, Mom, it's time to go to the doctor. Something's going on. You need to get tested. She was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in the early stage. That's back in 2011. Now we might label that mild cognitive impairment, which Rhonda pointed out often leads to a diagnosis of Alzheimer's. Wendy was very concerned. Her doctor said, oh, you're a nice lady. You've been doing everything right. Just go home and get your affairs in order because in a few years, you'll probably be in a nursing home. Well, if you ever get to meet Wendy Liebrick, you will find out she was not willing to accept that for a minute. She picked up the phone and called that young man in the photo. His name is Rob Liebrick. He's the president of Goodwin Living. And Goodwin Living is a senior living organization with campuses in Northern Virginia and the District of Columbia. So Rob was already in the field, and he knew that there was no cure for Alzheimer's, but he was very surprised to find out there also were not a lot of things that you could do when you were diagnosed with this problem. So Wendy was very upset. Rob did some research, found out in Japan in the early 2000s, in nursing homes, people with dementia, Alzheimer's disease, were doing some exercises on a daily basis, and after about 3 months, amazingly, they were doing much better on their cognitive testing. They were much more alert and able to engage and do things again that they hadn't been doing. So he looked into that, found out about the exercises, brought them to the United States, developed them, and that is how we got to the Stronger Memory program. So I am going to let you listen quickly to Wendy here. I'm going to start this video. I'll just tell you there's a picture there of Wendy on the left. She just recently turned 81 years old. This is a picture of her at her birthday party. She now programs her own cell phone GPS to tell her how to drive to community centers, senior centers, assisted living centers, all up and down the West Coast where she lives. She goes by herself and does formal talks. She also teaches bridge and mahjong now. And I am going to let you hear a little bit about Wendy and what she has been doing with the Stronger Memory program. Rhonda, if you'll let me know if you don't hear the sound after about 30 seconds.
Right now, I'm overjoyed. I think that since I've gotten involved with Rob's new program, Stronger Memory, and I've been focusing, I feel like I'm back in school actually, because I'm doing homework every day. I never let it go by. I might fall asleep while I'm writing my diary, or sometimes my mind floats off because I'm still trying to multitask, which I've learned recently that that's not good for your memory. And so I think that I can see the difference right now. I would say I have the best focus and recall right now that I've had in the 11 years I've been doing this.
Yeah, talking about recall, her recall has become so good that she recalls things that I don't wish her to recall. No, but seriously, she has an amazing recall that has improved significantly. I mean, this is much better than it was even before the 11 years ago when she started this. She's amazing. Her recall is far better than mine now, and I think it's because of the program she's been on.
So there you go. That's a little history, and you got to meet Wendy. And again, her very dear son, Rob Liebrick, developed the program. He came to work at Goodwin Living and shared the program with our nonprofit organization. And they immediately said, you know what? We need to share this with everyone. And we need to make this accessible. And so they put the curriculum, which you can download the workbook or the guide for free, and it's in multiple languages now on our website. So how nice is that to have a program that can help you hold off the symptoms of dementia, maybe for a year, maybe for 5 years, maybe for more than 10 years, like Wendy. And we have many people that have had that happen. And you just need to do some simple exercises. So why does this work? They think it works. Researchers believe it works because it's triggering a part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex. That's that part right behind your forehead. You heard Rhonda mention it. That's the area of our brain we're really trying to concentrate on. That's where you lay down memories. That's where your mind goes to recall memories. That's where you have concentration, focus, and recall. So we're trying to get a lot of activity in that area of the brain, and you can do that. The way you're going to be able to do that is through the Stronger Memory exercises. You're probably wondering what they are. They're not hard. We're talking 3 things: reading out loud, writing by hand, and doing some simple math quickly. Just those 3 things seem to make a huge difference. We want you to do them at least 4 to 5 times a week. If you want to do more, that's better, but try to do 4 to 5 days a week. You want to do 10 minutes each. You might need to build up to that. So 10 minutes of reading out loud, 10 minutes writing by hand, and 10 minutes a day of doing simple math quickly. So we're going to jump into the activities a little deeper. Reading out loud. This one is the easiest of all. You know why? You're already reading every day. Even if it's a grocery list, even if it's a wonderful card you opened up from a friend who's caring about you, you are reading every day. Now we're asking you just to read it out loud, not hard at all. Rob Liebrick is our CEO and president, and so residents that live in our communities come up to him all the time. A lady came up to him recently and said, listen, I don't think I really need this program because I read my Bible every single day, first thing when I get up. And he said, that is marvelous. Now I want you to read it out loud. And she kind of looked at him funny, but she went back and did it. And after a month, she came back and she said, oh my gosh, I'm remembering so much more of what I'm reading. And I was skipping over words and I didn't even realize it. So we want you to read anything you would like, especially things you enjoy, and work up to about 10 minutes of that. Read by yourself, read to friends, read to your partner, read to your pet. Doesn't really matter. We just want you to read out loud. And the next one, writing by hand. Remember that? Now we type. Now we have our phones. We even type on our phones. Well, it turns out that's not so good for our prefrontal cortex part of our brain. If you write by hand, you would be amazed at the brain scans showing how much activity goes on in the brain compared to typing. I don't want you to stop typing. It's not really hurting you, but it's not necessarily helping you hold off symptoms of dementia. So we want you to write anything you want. You can write a to-do list. You can write a postcard. And if you run out of things to write, the Stronger Memory Workbook has over 200 writing prompts, many of them fun, that you can answer these questions. You can even keep a journal. So write. We want you to go back to writing by hand. Then the third thing, simple math done quickly. It's very interesting, huh? Again, why do we say simple math? Wouldn't hard math be better? Turns out when you're trying to activate the prefrontal cortex, simple math is best. It really seems to do something. And this is like reawakening parts of our brain that we may have stopped using. We don't write checks and balance our checkbook as much as we used to. You go to the grocery store and the automatic cash register tells how much change you get back. So we need to go back to the basics and do some simple math quickly. We don't even care if you get the answer right or wrong. Yep. You heard me right. We really don't care. You know why? It turns out that it's the process of doing math that seems to really activate the brain and make the difference. I hear some of you, you're saying, I'm not a math person, really don't like math very much. There are a lot of us out there like that, but take a look at this math. This really is simple math. It gets a little harder as it goes along, but it's basic addition and subtraction. So we want you to work up to about 10 minutes a day of doing simple math quickly. So those are the 3 exercises, and you're probably starting to think, I could do those, but are we really sure that's going to help my brain? Well, yes, we are, because there's been some very good research on it. The largest study done by George Mason University looked at 102 people across the nation, all older adults, who heard the call when people went out and said, we would like to research stronger memory. 102 people took a MOCA test, a Montreal Cognitive Assessment test, before they started Stronger Memory. Then they did it for 12 weeks, all those 3 exercises. They were tested again, and guess what? Everybody improved to a degree. What was more amazing were people that were starting to have early symptoms of dementia improve their scores on average by 27%. That's a whopping number. We're not talking about drugs here. We're not talking about therapy treatments. We're talking about setting aside time to do 10 minutes, 4 or 5 days a week of each one of those exercises. Not very difficult to do. So I'm inviting you to join the Stronger Memory program, and I think you'll enjoy it, and you're going to hear a bit more about it right now.
Thank you, Teresa. We're excited to share with you a testimonial from one of the participants in the in-person group. You listen to her share what she's learned about stronger memory. My name is Danielle Payne. I was able to take part in the 12-week program of Stronger Memory at the East County Senior Recreational Center in Silver Spring, Maryland. It was conducted by Rhonda Hart and also by Sylvia Samuel Saunders at the East County. What I liked about it is that it really helped motivate me to continue and really focus on the exercises. One of the reasons why I took part in it is that we have a family member who has Alzheimer's. Even though we say that she has symptoms, her illness has totally affected our entire family. This is a woman, graduated as a registered nurse, raised 2 children, is married, and I don't get a chance to see her on a regular basis because she lives in Minneapolis. When I do see her, it's
No gentleman.
and a shock to see how the symptoms of Alzheimer's are taking its toll on her. One of the things in also using this program, I realized that even though it may be in my it may occur to me in the future, I hope that by taking part in this program, the progression will be less. I like this program. I got the book. This is the book that you get. It's from the Goodwin Institute. And also, what I've been doing is using a separate pad. They recommend that you try to do the exercises at least 5 or more times a week for a minimum of 30 minutes if you can. 10 minutes to read anything that you want. It could be the Bible, the motivational readings, the magazine, the newspaper. Then do 10 minutes of the simple math solutions. Math was never my forte. These exercises are so easy. 2 plus 2 is 4. I mean, you can do that, okay? And then the sentences that they have in the back, I found are really interesting, and they bring back many really good memories and also very inspirational. I have shared this with everybody. My son asked me, "Mom, are they paying you for this?" Because I try and share the information with everybody. So if you can take part in the program, it is well worth it. Share the information with somebody else. They recommend that you do use a separate book to do, say, the math examples and also the sentences, rather than writing in the book, because that way you can use the book to do the exercises over and over again, and you can share it with someone else. So that's Danielle. And I share it because when I hear Danielle talk about the program with that level of detail, I'm really happy because that means she connected. She's again in the new 12-week program. And can I tell you about that group? That group grew. When registration for the current class opened, it closed and the class was full in a couple of weeks. We had to go back to the center and ask them to expand so that we could allow more persons to share. So we have seen the impact on the ground, and I relate to something Teresa said. When I started reading aloud, I was missing words and didn't realize it. So we know the impact and the effect is real. You hear how simple it is, and it is not behind a paywall. With that, Teresa and I are going to take any questions that you have. I see one in the chat. It's from Greg. Greg wants to know, Teresa, is Howard, Wendy's husband, also in the program?
Oh, that's such a great question because Howard was not for the first few years, even though he saw dramatic results with his wife, Wendy, he was a little resistant. Howard taught Shakespeare as a college professor. So Howard really thought he had everything under control. And he really started to slip a little. Finally, a friend who lived on the East Coast of the United States in Maryland was a friend of Howard's, and they both loved Shakespeare. And Wendy, who you met in the video, said, I think you guys should read some Shakespeare back and forth on the phone when you converse once a week. Well, they chuckled, but they said okay, because they love Shakespeare. So they did it. And that's when Howard realized he really would like to do a little more reading out loud, some writing by hand, and he actually was already doing a great deal of simple math every day and some hard math too. So he already had the math down, but he found that reading out loud really, really seemed to make a difference. And then writing by hand. Wendy was already writing in a diary, but now Howard is way more into the program than he was at the beginning. So some people come to it quickly, some people need a little time. But yes, what a great question.
Great. Thank you so much for that answer. Greg has another question. Does poor hearing contribute to dementia and Alzheimer's?
Yes, the research is showing that it does. They're not positive. Why? Rhonda mentioned social isolation, is a problem. And if you're having difficulty hearing, you may not being as engaged with others. You also may be hearing things, you're not hearing a full sentence, so you're not interpreting things correctly. But again, there could be even more. There could be some circulatory issues going on. So yes, that's why if you are already noticing that you are having hearing problems, number one, please go to your doctor and see if that can be fixed, because hearing aids have come unbelievably far in the last decade. But secondly, you still want to exercise your brain as much as possible so you could do stronger memory as well.
Any other questions? Well, hold for the next section. We talked about the problem, the disease. We talked about stronger memory as a solution, something you can add to your routine to help improve cognition. Now we're going to experience it. I'm going to turn you over to Dr. C and Dr. M, Charmaine and Marlene, to walk us through the stronger memory exercises.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. So thank you, Teresa, for doing such a great job of explaining the program, so much so that I think we can just jump right into the exercises. So I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to be demonstrating reading out loud. Okay, so you all should be able to see my screen where there is a passage. So if you're not used to reading out loud, it can be a little intimidating at first. I know for me, it is. Whenever I hear myself speak, I'm like, okay. But it's a habit that we do want you to start as part of the Stronger Memory program. So we thought it would be fitting for us to practice together today. So I'm going to ask everyone to read this passage. We're going to be reading it in unison. You can unmute or you can stay muted, but I want every one of us to experience it together. Okay? All right. So I'm going to read and you can read along with me. Smiling is infectious. You catch it like the flu. When someone smiled at me today, I started smiling too. I passed around the corner and someone saw my grin. When he smiled, I realized I'd passed it on to him. I thought about that smile, then I realized its worth. A single smile, just like mine, could travel round the earth. So if you feel a smile begin, don't leave it undetected. Let's start an epidemic quick and get the world infected. All right, so I am curious. We read out loud. I didn't hear anyone else reading with me. No one unmuted. But how did that feel to read out loud? Anyone want to share their experience? Just the very act of reading that short passage.
I felt good about it, but I do that all the time anyway.
Okay. So what felt good about it to you, Winnie?
I've been used to reading out loud because I used to read stories all the time to kids at school because I taught, and also to my own children.
Okay. So it sounds like that was connected to the memory you had of reading to your kids at school and to your children.
Right.
Okay. Okay, good. So connected us to that memory, or connected you to that memory. Anyone else want to share what it was like for them?
Yes, I like reading out loud. I must have heard that it's good for the brain because I've been doing that many years ago, since the last several years. And I find that it really helps me. And I believe I've been told that I have a very good memory. I'm 85 years old, and sometimes the younger ones ask me something that they don't remember. But I know I still have a ways to go.
Okay, okay, well, good. So you've been benefiting from this practice for a while, it seems. Thank you for sharing that, Vivine.
Sure, you're welcome.
All right. Anyone else before we move on to our next passage? Okay, all right. And I love what Winnie said, that she's been reading to kids, for a long time. And we know it's important to read to babies and to children who can't read to themselves because it helps their brain develop. But as we learn today, it's also important for us as adults to read out loud, because that's going to help combat the cognitive decline and to help mitigate the effects of dementia. So let's move on. Now, Erlene, did I see you want to say something? Maybe not. Okay. Let's move on to the next passage. And for this one, I'm going to ask one individual to volunteer to read out loud.
Mhm.
If I had my life to live over, an excerpt by Irma Bombeck. If I had my life to live over, I would have talked less and listened more. I would have invited friends over to dinner, even if the carpet was stained and the sofa faded. I would have eaten the popcorn in the good living room and worried less about the dirt when someone wanted to light a fire in the fireplace. I would have taken the time to listen to my grandfather ramble about his youth. I would never have insisted the car windows be rolled up on a summer day because my hair had just been teased and sprayed.
Okay, thank you, Vivine, for volunteering. Now, we talk about how beneficial reading out loud is to memory. So I thought I would give us all a little pop quiz. Besides Vivine, was there anyone else who read it out loud?
I did.
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna separate us into two groups. We've got the group who read out loud and the group who just listened along or just read along without saying the words out loud. Okay. So I'm gonna ask, so group one, you did not read out loud. And so I'm gonna ask you these questions first. We're gonna do them one at a time. Okay. So if you're in group one and you did not read out loud, what was the first thing the author said she would have done differently? Anyone from group one, you did not read out loud?
I know it had something to do with the house being clean and whatever, and in order.
Okay. Oh, okay, okay. I'm gonna see if we get a different response from the group who did read out loud. What was the first thing the author said she would have done differently?
Invited more people over to dinner, even if the carpet was tattered. Even if the carpet was stained.
What? One more person. One more try from the read out loud group.
But I think it was listen more and talk less.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And Ms. Vivine, I would expect you to get that correctly because you did read it out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next question. The group who did not read out loud. So fill in the blank. I would have invited friends over for dinner, even if blank and blank. You did not read out loud. What do you recall?
I would not read out loud. I mean, I would have invited friends over for dinner, even if the carpet was stained and the sofa, something about the sofa. The sofa was
Okay.
ragged.
The sofa was faded. Miss Cece, did you read out loud or did you follow along?
I followed along.
Okay, okay, okay. Awesome. Well, you got that correctly. Next one. For those who did not read out loud, where would she have eaten the popcorn?
The woman run through the crowd so she could touch or get to Jesus so that he could.
Someone who did not read out loud.
Was it the fancy living room?
Yes, in the good living.
The good living
Yeah.
room.
The good living room. All right. Did Miss Vivine, did you get that answer correct? Where would she have eaten the popcorn?
I just remember the living room.
The living room. Okay. And finally, why did she insist that the car windows be rolled down on a summer day? Those who did not read out loud.
Rolled up, rather, because of her hair. Her hair was
It was just
teased.
teased and sprayed.
Okay, yes. Well, good job, everyone. I do think there was a slight difference in that first question. And I thought this would be the case because, it was the first part of the reading. And of course, you tend to remember the things you read later. So I think there is what I wanted to demonstrate was to really see if there was a clear distinction between if you read it out loud, do you have stronger recall? And I think that was the case in the first question. The others, I would say it would probably was a tie. Probably say it was a tie. But thank you all for participating in this short demonstration. And as you get more and more into the practice of reading out loud, you'll see that your memory improves, that your focus gets better, and that you comprehend more of what you read. Now I'll turn it over to Marlene. I'll stop sharing now.
Okay, so we will continue with the practice. And for this section, I want you to practice the math portion of the Stronger Memory Program, which is to complete simple math questions, simple math problems quickly. The key here is completing it quickly, not to get it correct, but to complete it quickly. So if you don't have if you can get your writing utensils, I have my pen and paper. I would like you to complete the questions that you see on the screen. And when you've completed it, I would like you to put in the chat that you have completed it. I want to see how long it takes you to complete these questions. So on the count of 3, let's get started. So 1, 2, 3. Let's get started. Okay, we have 2 more minutes.
Oh, I didn't see you inside it.
Okay, 1 more minute. Okay, and time. Okay, so based on the chat, it seems like most completed within 2 minutes, which is very good, right? So you just get a sense of what we want you to do is to get a sense of the difficulty of the questions. You see, they're very simple. And that's the key, that they're simple math questions done quickly. That way you're retrieving from your memory the answers for these problems, right? So you're exercising that part of the brain. I think we have enough let's do one more easy math session. I'm going to give you 2 minutes again to complete that session. I will tell you when to start. Okay, here we go. So on the count of 2, let's start. 1, 2. And also put in the chat when you're completed. Okay, 1 more minute.
Beverly. And see if
Okay, and time. All right, very good. Looks like the average is still 2 minutes, so that's very good. So what you see here, if you have this workbook, it will typically take you about like you're doing about 2 minutes, so maybe 1 minute, depending on how difficult the questions are. When you start at the beginning of the math section, the questions are easier and they increase the difficulty, but not too difficult. And so it will take you in 10 minutes, you could complete about 4 to 5 pages, right? But again, please do them quickly. So that is the key in benefiting from these math problems. Okay, now let's practice or test the third tool, or practice the third tool of the Stronger Memory program, which is the writing. So I'm going to show you a writing prompt. And I think we have about 3 minutes I'll give you 4 minutes to write on this heading, this topic. It says, write a list of 10 things that make you feel happy. 10 things that make you feel happy. And at the end, I'm going to ask one person to share if you're comfortable.
Okay.
You have 2 more minutes. One more minute. Okay. All right, so time's up. What I would like now is for a volunteer, if someone's brave enough. You don't have to be brave, actually. Just volunteer to read your list of 10 items. I see Greg's hand. Greg, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and get started. I actually put together 11. Overachiever. Getting paid. Green lights, that's always good. Roses, seeing people smile. Hiking, Brookside Gardens, talking to friends, seeing my family, sunny days, no rain, and Krispy Kreme donuts.
Thank you, Greg.
You're
I
welcome.
identify with some of those. Okay, we have 4 minutes left, and I know we need to provide some time for announcements and questions, but can I just get Emily to quickly read her list? Emily, if you can go ahead.
Singing worship songs. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. Singing worship songs, writing my journal, cooking and baking, teaching kids at my nursery, exercising, encouraging people in the gospel, resting, having a nice cup of hot tea, nature walk, spending time with family.
Oh, thank you. We have overlaps there, Emily. Okay, thank you for sharing. Thanks everyone for sharing. Now we'll have Rhonda wind things down for us. Rhonda and Teresa.
Thank you so much for that session, Marlene and Charmaine. A minute or two for any final questions.
Is it over already?
Yes, 1 hour. 1 hour, but this session may be over, but we invite you to find us on Facebook, Resilient Health Communities. We keep saying we'll post material on YouTube, and this video we will share on YouTube. We also have coming up on the first Sunday in July, we have an ongoing series called First Sundays, where we talk about a topic related to building resilience. Part of protecting ourselves cognitively is building our reserve for handling issues that just happen in life routinely, as long as you're living the issues. So our topic for July will be releasing fear. Here's the information for it, but you can find us on Facebook. That's the easiest place to find us. And for many of you, you probably have contact information for one of us. So we invite you to reach out if you have any ongoing question. I put the link to the workbook in the chat so you can grab the link and access the workbook online. If you just need a digital copy, it's absolutely free. Any final questions? Well, I would say mission accomplished. Hearing no final questions, we are adjourned. Thank you for your time. We'll stay on for a couple of extra minutes so that you can get the workbook. I will post it again for anyone who didn't get it before.